Hello everyone. Thank you for joining this Foundations of the Circular Economy session. My name's Joe Murphy and this is my colleague Michelle Tulac, and we both work at the MacArthur Foundation, and we're be able to deliver this session to you all. It's a bit of a tough brief, actually, the Foundations of Circular Economy, because it's a really big topic, it's a very short time, and there's a real range of levels of understanding on the call. And so we decided to interpret it quite literally, and we have started at the beginning. So if this is a bit entry level for some of you, apologies, but we thought that was the safest bet. The headline really of, what is the circular economy is that it's an alternative vision for the economy. And to really be able to understand what that means, we need to understand what we have now and the way our economy works now, which we would say is follows the linear models, the linear economy. And to try and justify that a bit, I'm going to start with a story. So 23rd of December, 1924, middle of winter, build up to Christmas, Geneva. You have representatives from some of the largest light bulb manufacturers in the world, so Philips, General Electric, others, and they're gathered in probably a well-lit room, actually, because they have a problem, they have an issue, and their issue is that their light bulbs are lasting too long and they're not selling enough light bulbs. They've saturated the market. So they formed, in response to this, they formed a cartel, which was called the Phoebus cartel. And they collectively agreed to limit the lifespan of their light bulbs to 1,000 hours. So typically a light bulb would have lasted for 2,000 hours at that time. So they agreed to half the lifespan. And it was quite sophisticated. Members could test each other's light bulbs and there'd be financial penalties. So it's a proper illegal cartel. But why we think it's interesting and why I'm using this story now is because it's one of the first examples of planned obsolescence. So it's one of the first examples where waste was literally designed into the product. What we would say is that is quite synonymous with the whole, dynamic behind the linear economy, in which growth in a linear economy is coupled with the growing consumption of stuff. And that has its origins in the Industrial Revolution. We've got a picture of the Ford factory here. When we were able to produce stuff like never before, we had incredibly cheap energy and labor costs, and we just had an abundance of infinite raw materials. And so we produced stuff at a rapid rate. In the 50s and 60s, we added rocket fuel to that with advertising, and we started to associate new with good seasons, and really accelerated the demand for things and new things, and we also accelerated production. And fundamentally, we have the same model today, largely, and that is what we would call a linear model, which is high throughput. So it's all about high production, high volume of use and high throughput. Use something, get rid, replace, start again. And we call that the linear economy, and it follows what we would say is the take, make, and waste dynamic. So just important to recognize that actually that way of doing things has been amazing. It's lifted millions of people out of poverty. It's given us all actually opportunities that would be unimaginable, 60 years ago. But it's also come with massive problems. And some of the big ones are the externalities that are associated with the current linear model. So climate change, loss of biodiversity, we know a lot about these, but these are costs of the way that we produce things, food, the stuff we use and consume, that are not necessarily factored in or priced into the current model. Someone's saying you've got nothing on screen. There should be. Are other people having issues seeing the slides? Maybe if someone could just reply on the screen. Yes, I see you two slides. All okay, good. So the way we produce stuff causing massive externalities. We're also producing things, actual products that are not fit for the system in which we use them. And plastics packaging is like the archetype example of this. where we actually produce packaging in large volumes that's then used in areas of the world where there isn't a system to collect and reintroduce that material back into the economy, ends up in waterways and ends up in the ocean. It's a well-documented problem. There are also slightly more hidden, invisible issues with the current model, and that's what we would call structural waste. And that's really about underutilizing the stuff that we have when we have it. So the classic example is a car. Your average car spends 92% of its life parked, but that's the same for our wardrobe, our clothes, our apparel. We all, I guess, are guilty of having way more stuff at any one time than we actually need. So the circular economy, by contrast, is a vision for an alternative way of organizing the economy. And it really implies a full-scale system transformation. And that is what makes circular economy really, really compelling and exciting. But it also is what makes it really difficult and frustrating. Fundamentally, the model is built on 3 principles. And I think for us, particularly, whenever I do the foundations of circular economy, the safe space is always the principles, because it's the lowest common denominator that we have, and it's what is the base layer, it's the foundation for organizing our thoughts on everything else around how the circular economy would work. So principle 1 is designing out waste and pollution. Principle 2 is keeping products in use and at their best utility. And finally, the third principle is about regenerating natural systems. So not just doing less bad, but actually doing more good. So we want to have an economic model that is regenerative by design, what we often say. So these 3 principles are at the heart and the foundation of a system, a new system, a circular economy system. And the butterfly diagram here that we have on screen is one representation of how those principles could come together. And it's a visual aid, really, for thinking about how that materials economy would work. So really, I don't want to go too much into the different dimensions of the butterfly diagram. If you haven't seen it before, do have a look. There's loads of great stuff online, including on our website, about explaining how it works. But it's just a visualization of the material pathways that could work in a circular economy, and how we actually keep materials, products, components in the system, whether that's by sharing them or recycling, however. And really, I get the question quite a lot: is how do I know if something's circular? How do we do a circular model? And for me, the key question to ask here is, when you're thinking about putting something on the market, is what is going to happen after this product's first use? If you can answer that question, then the chances are you're on to something that is circular and circular by design. So next up, Michelle's going to run through some practical case studies to make this nice and tangible, and we'll be monitoring the chat. I'll have an eye on the chat window, so please get some questions coming in. Over to you, Michelle.
Excellent, thanks, Joe. So let's bring these principles to life with some examples of circular business models. And there are many organizations throughout the world putting these practices or these principles into practice, from large corporates to disruptive startups. And since the Ellen MacArthur Foundation launched, we've emphasized the real-world relevance of the circular economy framework, recognizing that business innovation sits at the heart of economic transitions. And we believe that business, with policymakers and academia, can catalyze circular innovation. So let's take a look at some examples. So for the first principle, design out waste and pollution, we have an example of a company called Appeal Sciences, and they've captured the attention of many people, leading organizations and smallholder farmers, and some notable investors too, and for good reason. Appeal Sciences pioneered a plant-derived protective layer that could be applied to the surface of fruits and vegetables, keeping them fresher longer, reducing food waste, and reducing the need for plastic packaging. The material scientists and innovators behind Appeal Sciences believe that all produce has value, and that longer-lasting produce means more opportunity for everyone. This approach focuses on working with nature, using food to preserve food. So it's a really inspiring story, and this solution is unlocking value across the food system. The next example, Winnow, Winnow enables the kitchen of the future. And really that future is now. Winnow is a technology intelligence. The way it works is by measuring and characterizing food waste. That information, what was wasted, which part of the cooking process it was from, how much it was worth, can then be used to support better decision-making around food preparation and food valorization. So leaders in hospitality and food industry are leveraging Winnow technology to capture and analyze data around their operations and to generate insights and reports that help track inefficiencies and increase awareness among kitchen staff. So ultimately saving time and money, cutting costs, and reducing food waste. So this is a great example of technology's transformative potential, driving both behavior change and delivering measurable impact. All right, for the next principle, keeping products in use, we have an example from the Renewal Workshop. And the Renewal Workshop offers circular solutions like renewal and recommerce for apparel and textile brands. They partner with some of the world's best loved brands and retailers to maintain the highest value of their products and recover the full value of things that have already been produced. So for example, these garments may have been produced as excess inventory or may have become excess inventory or unsellable returns. And when those products come to the renewal factory, they're sorted and they're cleaned, repaired if needed, and given new life as renewed apparel. That's then either sold through the original brand's sales channels or through the Renewal Workshop's website. For any products that can't be renewed, they're responsibly managed in order to optimize the resources already embedded in the products. Renewal Workshop also co-brands each product with a label so the buyer can have confidence that the garment has been certified to meet the high quality standards of Renew apparel. So great example of partnership and collaboration. It also reflects some larger trends that we're seeing around repair, resale, and these models are increasingly popular with companies like The RealReal, which is a consignment marketplace, and H&M's repair ateliers for mending and repairing clothing. All right, another example is Adidas. So Adidas has put this principle into practice with their quest to develop a circular product. The Futurecraft Loop is their 100% recyclable performance running shoe. Their team is continuously learning about recycling footwear, experimenting in the development process, and planning another launch next year. They've also launched a bring back program, a service called Infinite Play. So maintaining that belief that their products always have value, they've developed an app that allows people to trade in their gear or to pass it on for new use. The Infinite Play service aims to prevent waste from reaching the environment and the oceans in particular. And users of the service automatically become members of the Creators Club, and they can tap into rewards that way. Adidas facilitates the collection of the used gear. They check it, sort it, clean it, repair it. If possible, that gear is resold. And if the item is no longer fit for purpose, it's turned into something new. And the Infinite Play service is powered by a social enterprise called Stuffster. And Stuffster provides the technology that enables that recirculation.
Cool. Can I jump in quickly on the Adidas one, Michelle? Mine, because I just wanted to. Yes, Lisa. Yes, monomaterial, singular material, which is so the shoe is actually made of a singular material. It is a pilot within Adidas, so you can't buy them on the high street now, and it was a result of, I believe, quite a lengthy, almost 10-year R&D program. So, you know, it just gives you an example of when you think about trying to achieve a vast range of functions with a singular material, just the level of R&D that needs to go into the kind of material science to be able to do that. But what's cool about it is I think it's a great example of an upstream design intervention, and that's so key when it comes to particularly products and how, you know, and people's understanding of the circular economy. What we're really pushing for is a focus not on how do we deal with the waste that's in front of us, right now, although that's really important. How are we making decisions in the design phase? So you actually design that waste out and you design a product to fit in an effective system. And having a singular material makes it super easy to recycle because there's, you know, fewer parts, fewer buckets. And just another comment on Adidas. So I think we wanted to call out that a lot of these examples are quite niche. You know, they're small startup-y examples, and these are really useful when it comes to just making the circular economy quite tangible to people, but we recognize they are quite niche. We work with loads of large companies that really are also putting big investments into circular economy, but a lot of their work is a bit about turning the tanker as well, and it's the kind of full business transformation. So a lot of that is focused on the kind of really trying to design the back-end processes, the strategies, the frameworks that allows a vast product range to shift to a circular model. So they're kind of less sexy in a way, and somehow kind of less useful for this use case. But sorry, Michelle, I just wanted to chime in.
Yeah, totally. All right, another example for the principle regenerate natural systems, we've got Green Wave. And Green Wave developed a model for regenerative ocean farming. It's a polyculture farming system that grows a mix of seaweeds and shellfish that don't require any inputs. So this approach involves suspending a simple structure between the sea surface and the seabed. And it can grow seaweeds, mussels, scallops, clams, oysters at different depths along the water column. And Green Wave's model is deployed for restoring ocean ecosystems, capturing carbon and nitrogen, commercial farming, and growing seaweed and shellfish for food, fertilizer, animal feed, bioplastics, and more. And these 3D ocean farms sit vertically below the surface, so they produce high yields with a relatively small footprint. Green Wave also trains and supports regenerative ocean farmers working with coastal communities throughout North America. And Thimbleton Ocean Farm serves as their floating classroom. And the last example we have for this principle in today's presentation is Ecovative Designs. And Ecovative Design grows biomaterials for packaging products that serves as an alternative to petroleum-based packaging. These biomaterials are made from mycelium, a fungal network of thread-like cells that act as a self-assembling binder for agricultural byproducts. And these biomaterials are made up of crop waste that cannot be used for food or feed. And the mycelium grows, digesting that agricultural byproduct, binding into the shape that's needed. And the growing technique can use multiple feedstocks, so allowing use of locally available crops. And at the end of its use, the biomaterial packaging can simply be composted at home without needing any special equipment. So returning those valuable nutrients to the soil and into the ecosystem, thereby enhancing natural resources. So there is a lot of innovation out there, but there's no silver bullet. It's really about getting started. And these examples show that organizations may be at different stages in their journey and their transition to circularity, but they're demonstrating that it's not only possible, it's happening right now. And circular business models work. With the right conditions, they can scale, address global challenges, and provide benefits throughout society. At the foundation, as Joe mentioned, we work with a range of partners to develop scalable circular business initiatives and to address challenges with implementing them. So our website has many more case studies if you want to take a deeper dive. And Joe and I can answer some questions. We'll be around over the next couple days, so feel free to find us on Hopin. And yeah, that's an overview.
Will the slides be shared? Yes, the visual aids, the epic visual aids will be shared, absolutely. It's very chats and questions. Sorry for some folks if we skipped through certain slides quickly. I guess we're a bit hesitant about covering the ground in the time, but David, Annabelle's actually provided the correct 3 principles: design out waste and pollution, keep products, keep products in use, so maximum utility, and this regenerate natural systems. So there was another question about waste. collection. So you asked, how would you see waste collection and recycling fit in circularity? I'm going to see if I can skip back to the butterfly diagram. Sorry if this is going to send everyone insane, but and this might not be big enough for you to see, but if you expand the screen with the slide on, so recycling is absolutely key for a circular economy, definitely, clearly. And I think, just as a foundations point of view, one of the risks we see with circular economy and the way it's interpreted is that it becomes a conversation just about recycling. So it's almost like a newfangled way of talking about recycling. And actually, there's so much more in it, right? Because, and again, it goes back to this, how do we move the conversation and the dialogue and the focus up to the design phase so that we are making decisions about the way we create products. And it's much easier to think about, say, a laptop or something as an example like this, so that they actually can be repaired, maintained. If actually we want to do some component harvesting, remanufactured, sold as a remanufactured product, these are kind of choices in design, which are on which material do you use? Do you use glues or screws? I'm really simplifying what is obviously an insanely high-tech process, but just to say that there are many, many more things we can and should be doing to be maximum utility out of the products that we have before we get to recycling. So recycling is absolutely key, huge amount of innovation needed, huge opportunity, collection as well. But often it can move too quickly to recycling, when people are talking about circular economy. Have you seen any questions come in, Michelle, you want to pick up?
Let's take a look.
Says degrowth. Any thoughts about degrowth strategies as well? I'm not sure if I'm, correct on the interpretation here, but for the foundation, the circular economy is a story about economic growth, right? Fundamentally, it is about it's about saying the circular economy actually has a positive business case. There's a strong economic rationale that if we actually decouple economic growth from the consumption of finite resources and the production of waste and pollution, we can be making a lot more money, because we're actually collectively not making enough use or utility out of the materials that we're using today to have the products and that we enjoy and that we need. So I don't know if I'm interpreting that correctly, but for us, it's the economic rationale behind the circular economy is really important, because it's just key. It's key.
I see a question here from Gia. She asked that, do you agree that the biggest factor in shifting towards a circular economy right now is defining success? And I think there'll be some other conversations throughout the next couple of days, and even some remarks earlier today that talk about how we need to raise the ambition level and make these big commitments. And I think at the foundation, we really believe that setting a vision is really critical in helping folks get organized, to rally around this kind of goal that they may have, and to have those goals time bound. So I would agree. I don't know if it's the biggest factor, let's say, but I think it's certainly crucial as we think about this transition and having this transition happen at scale. I think another point that we brought up, maybe in some of the examples, but this need for collaboration. So some of the examples that we use to kind of storytell the circular economy we selected them because they're examples of these niche companies that are able to work with within larger industries and with larger players. And so an example of where partnership and collaboration also helps us get closer to the circular economy.
I'm kind of regretting asking for questions now, because we've been completely overwhelmed, I would say, by the questions coming in, and we're at time. We promised, we were actually on very strict instructions from the conference organisers to finish on the dot, otherwise we'll be cut off. So if we haven't asked answered your question, please do reach out to us. We're on the Hopin platform. We're participating in the event as you are. You can just DM us. I think I haven't got completely to grips with it yet, but please do reach out to us. There's much out there, wealth of information. The Foundation's website is a great reference point. Greenbiz have put some really cool content out around it and interviews with people from the field and in practice. So do dig in, do reach out to us, and enjoy the rest of Circularity 20. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.